podcast number 2 with Coach Danny Eleutiza. Coach Danny comes to us from 20 years of coaching and playing. He started as a young boy growing up in Puerto Rico, coaching at the age of 14 while playing in high school. He went on to win a high school championship, and his first year at college in Puerto Rico won the national championship. He's taken multiple teams to Open Nationals and has won at the 14U national level and Open at USA Nationals. Coach Danny comes to us as a setter and a helper at our Woodstock location. And here we go into a deep dive into his history, setting, and coaching over the years. All right, Danny, here we go. We're excited to have you on this podcast. First, let's start a little bit about your history. Tell us about your volleyball playing career first, and then we'll go into the coaching career. So we'll keep them separate. So I know you started as a young kid in Puerto Rico, and talk to us just through high school and your training up through there.
Yeah, I used to, when I was younger, I used to play baseball. And I was not very good at it. And my mom used to be a volunteer recreational leader for our neighborhood, and she had this volleyball club named Arcel, and she made a team for boys. So when I was 10, I started playing, and I fell in love with the game, and I played all the way to semi-pro back home. I got a scholarship to go to Academy Disciples Christ in Bayamón, Puerto Rico, when I was a senior in 2000, we won the high school national championship as a setter. Then from there, I got a scholarship to go to University of Sacred Heart back in Puerto Rico. And my freshman year, we won the national championship for colleges there. And then I played semi-pro. And then after that, I was coaching since I was 14. So I think I fell in love with coaching more than playing. So little by little, I said, I don't want to play anymore and I want to be a coach. So, but at a young age, I used to remember this coach. His name was Ferdinand. And he used to tell me that my volleyball sense and the way I know the game, it was it was advanced than other kids. So that helped me develop more my game, and it helped me a lot in coaching.
Yeah.
It still does this day.
Almost like uncoachable moments and uncoachable skills. Some of those are hard to teach.
They're hard to teach.
Yeah.
You don't get kids like that too much.
Yeah.
And when you do, you're like, okay, I like this kid.
They have like Wayne Gretzky had eyes behind the back of his head, they would say, and he knew where everyone was, and kind of like that, right? You have this sixth sense of things happening before they actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that just comes with having a really, really good knowledge of what
the game.
Yeah. All right. So what led you, before we get into a deep dive into setting, we'll talk about that for a good 30, 40 minutes on this podcast. Tell me what led you into that position, or how did that start? Or did you start off as something else and then became the setter? And
the funny story is that we were never going to do a volleyball team. So me and other kids from girls that play in the club, we were playing in the playground, and in the playground you have the handstand that you walk, then you like
the monkey bars.
The monkey bars,
yep.
Yep. So we used to play 2-on-2 with the monkey bar being the net.
Okay.
So one day we're playing, and that coach comes in and said, "Hey, we're gonna make a boys team." So first try, it was 4 of us, and he's like, "I need a setter." I'm like, "I can set." It's like, "You know how to set?" I said, "Well, show me." So "Oh yeah, So it's funny because when you see a girl and the first time they get a ball, they start passing.
Yeah.
Boys start hitting the ball. For me, it was just using my hands. I don't know why. And he put me to set, and I start doing that. When I was 12 years old, we got another setter that he was very good, and I was kind of tall for my age, so I played middle that year.
Yeah.
I will never play middle in my life again. That's the worst position. And any middle out there, man, I don't envy you. I applaud you for all you do. So I played middle, and then after that, I became I was a full-time setter. I mostly played for my mom's club, but one year I went to play with another club back in Torrimal, We played there 1 year, and then in high school. And then I had a couple of colleges back home. They wanted me to go play with them. And I decided to go for Sacred Heart because there were some kids that were alumni of my high school that went there. So I knew the team was going to be pretty good. I had the opportunity. There were a couple of universities from the States to wanted me to go play, but they wanted me to lose some weight and get ready. And I started. It was great for the first week. I used to run to my gym. That was like 4 miles away. I used to work out and run back. After a week, it was done. It was done. So I just stay home, play a couple of years college, and and then I played semi-pro, and that was it.
Yeah. Tell me about the semi-pro, just for girls that don't know or whatnot. What was the pay like, or what was the training schedule like? Or, like it sounds like, oh, Danny went to go play at this level and was,
man.
So give us a quick rundown of what the day was like, what the contract was like. And
I'm not going to lie. Like, we used to practice every day, and it was 2.5 an hour practice. The preseason, we had to go to a gym for an hour and then come back to practice. And they were paying us from $25 to $35 per game. And then you can get whatever you want on the concession stand. But, like, I don't remember if I got paid or not, So the year I played, I don't remember if I got paid. There was just a bunch of guys from our town. And the funny story is that because the team was made in my town, I was considered a native, so I was cheaper for them. So we had a couple of guys from out of town that were a friend of mine.
Is that because you lived at home?
I live at home, and I
Okay.
live with my parents, so I live in that area.
Yeah.
So for them, oh, Danny can play, so come. So I remember I signed for like $30 a game, and I don't remember if I got paid, to be honest, a long time ago. But
And this was a league in Puerto Rico
in
that
Puerto
you would
Rico,
play.
it's called Copubo. Oh no, it's called Puertorriqueña, La Liga Puertorriqueña, and they had like 10 teams, and it was not a bad league. You had some people that play pro, the real pro Puerto Rico league, and used to play in that league because they used to get ready to play in the national, championship league. And I remember one year, Hector Soto, Piqui Soto, he played for one of the teams. We didn't play to the team because they were in the other side of the country. So, we were in the east side, they were in the west side. So for us, we never played them. But, names like that playing the league, it was a really cool league. I don't know. I was just getting paid like $30. I don't know how much he was getting paid, but I don't remember how much I get paid or not. Practice were tough. You had games, and then you had to go the next day to get ready to practice, to go play a game the next day, and then you might have to drive an hour and a half away in the island to go play, to then come back the next day and practice. So it was a little demanding, even for a semi-pro team.
Yeah. And that kind of led you to, hey, I think I love coaching.
Yeah,
and I wanted to do that. And
I'll tell you, the reason why I stopped playing is because my mouth was too big in the game. And we were playing a team where a bunch of friends were on the other side. And there was this guy, Armando, great guy, very humble. And I started picking on him and talking to him. And then a whole fight break, was going to break. And it was because of me. So I got thrown out of the game because I was speaking too much. And my parents were in the game. And then after that, we went to eat. And my dad told me, he said, hey, you know what? I think it's time for you to retire and start coaching more. And I look at my dad and I say, okay. So I finished the season. And then after that, I said, I'm done with playing. I don't want to. The passion of coaching was so much better. I think I had a good future in there.
Yeah. So you were 14 when you first started coaching.
I was 14. My mom made
while you were playing in high school.
While I was playing in high school, and my mom made a team. There was these boys, and they were 10 under, and she made that team, and it was fun. I coached them we had like it was not mini club. We had like in Puerto Rico, it's way different than here. So we have like our own, that club had their own league. So we had that recreational league, and we play for 2 months, and then like we had like 4 boys teams. So I was coaching one, another friend of mine was coaching one, and then after that we went and competed in the club series we made a team, and I coached the team. And I was managing high school, coaching, and playing at the same time. So it was hard. I missed a couple of my coaching game because I had to play, but it was fun. Like at that age, you being 14-year-old, coaching kids that are 9 and 10, it was like, and the kids listen. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. It also probably taught you, it might be digressing, but taught you how to manage your time well as a young kid,
Yep.
and always had something to do and keep you busy and good, put your energy into something good. Okay, so your progression went from coaching at Arsenal in Puerto Rico. Then after you graduated, played in college, you came over. What year did you come over to the States?
I was
to
24,
Florida?
man. I don't remember. I was 24 years old. I don't remember. I know my brother coached for Champions Volleyball Club in Orlando.
Yeah.
And he recruited me over to come coach. And I came in for okay, so I had at that age, the year before, I had the best team in Puerto Rico in 14 under. We went and we won every tournament in the island, not only in 14 under, plus 16 up. Nobody beat us. We went to nationals, they were here actually in Atlanta, Georgia, and we won in 14.
This is USA Nationals?
USA National.
Yeah,
we won 14 Open, and this was when you had to beat Sport Performance, Kiva, Muncie. I remember my path to the finals was the first match was Northern Lights. Then I had to beat Kiva. Then I had to beat Sport Performance, and then the finals was against Munciana. And we won, and my brother was like, hey, come coach with us at Orlando. So I had the best team in Puerto Rico. He bring me over, a new club. He put me to coach at 14 threes. And when I went to the first practice, these kids didn't even know how to serve. And I said, I'm hold 6, so I'm going back home. So I went back home, and I coached that team in 15s. We finished third in nationals. They were in Minnesota, in Open. And I went back home, and then in June, I told him, I'm done. I'm moving for sure. So I moved. After 1 year, I moved back to Orlando, and then that's the story it's been since.
Gotcha. So you, when you moved back to Orlando, how long did you coach at Champions?
We coached for 1 season because at that time Champions were owned by Barry Larkin, the baseball player, and it was not going very good, so he sold it. So I coached for Champions for in 1 year. I coached their 18s, and I was coaching their 14 ones. So, not super high-level teams, but they have some talent. The 14s, I believe the 14s qualified for nationals that year. And then after that, we continued to do clinics, but then the club, the owner, Barry Larkin, sold Champions to this guy, and this guy brought over OVA. They were sending him on.
I got you.
Yeah.
And so you went over to OVA to start coaching, which is
coaching with
Orlando
them.
Volleyball Academy.
Yeah.
I remember going down there for years to their facility and being like, wow, it's so nice.
Yeah,
And
it's so nice, yeah.
yeah, that back in the day, it was hard that many clubs didn't have big, huge facilities. No. And this was in the early 2000s. And we'd go down every year for a big tournament, and like, wow, they have a big facility, but more clubs are doing that now.
Yeah.
So after OVA, OVA became OTVA. They merged with Tampa and started going into Orlando Tampa Volleyball Academy.
Yep.
So you were with OVA/OTVA for how long?
So I coached OVA for, I think, 4 years. And then 1 year, I remember I went to Top Select because there were some problems, with the owners at OVA, and I didn't see stuff the way I thought they were correct, so I left. And I had a year. I think my worst coaching year was that one at Top Select, and it had nothing to do with Top Select ownership or anything like that. It was just more me personal. I created a vendetta against OVA, and instead of coaching for the right reasons, I was coaching for the wrong ones. I was coaching to beat OVA. And it was horrible. It was actually, I'm gonna lie, it was horrible, the mentality that I had. And then I went to this program called Juice It was like an hour and a half from home for a year. So I can just start over, continue, work on my coaching. And then I went back to OVA. And then 3 years after I went back, they sold it to Tampa Bay Volleyball Academy. And I was with them for like 4 or 5 years.
Gotcha. And then you made the connection to come over to Atlanta, to TK.
Yeah. And, I was not looking to move, but there was a lot of rumors that our facility in Orlando was going to be closed because it was too much money. And I remember I was in Triple Crown, and we went to Triple Crown because our teams, OTBA is recognized nationally. We went to Triple Crown, and I saw Suzanne, that at that point she was with, she has her own club. And I was, congratulations, you made your own club. That's good. And she said, I told her, you didn't really help, let me know. So she called me and said, hey, I know you do tournaments. Will you move to Georgia? And I'm like, and granted, when I come to Atlanta, to Georgia, I just go to a tournament in downtown. And there are downtown, it's not.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I don't know if I want to move down here. So we have an auntie and an uncle that live here. And we came in, we met with the people from TK, and it was good. They gave me the opportunity, and my uncle told me what to do, all that kind of stuff. And the area where we were living, it was way different than the area in Orlando. So we decided to move, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's the evolution of volleyball, and I guess business in general. People are always moving parts and finding out what's best for them. So I know feelings can come involved, but Suzanne broke off from A5. I broke off from Cabo Atlanta. Jeff broke off from A5. I mean, you can't really say broke off, right? You're just trying to find what's best for you and your family. And,
exactly.
One of our directors just recently got picked up by A5 and left us. So it is what it is. And you try to just wish everyone the best and do the best you can and stay in your lane. So just kind of throw that as a disclaimer for everything. Yep. All right. And then now you're with us, and we'll get into what you're doing with us in a little bit here. But let's talk real quick, so you talked about the 14s that were in Puerto Rico. Tell me about your 12s that you had that.
Well, my brother used to coach 12s, and he won like 5 national championships at the 12s. And I was the assistant coach. And when he moved to the state, because my brother moved to Arizona to work with his brother-in-law, I took over the 12s. And, man, I used to have that same team that was in 14s. I had him in 12. And I had kids. I have a kid. Her name is Shara Venegas. She is the libero for the national team now in Puerto Rico. And when she was 12 years old, this kid was top spinning, jumping like a 18-year-old. And we went and we won. We didn't go to nationals. We went to AU nationals. We won AU nationals against another Puerto Rican team, the final. And, it was different, man. I remember those teams, and we used to play and have the middle go behind and run a 2-ball in 12s, and then you're running fast ball in the outside, and the outside hitters coming in for a 31, and it was different. It was different in the 12 and under age group.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so this is a good segue into volleyball in Puerto Rico. Most people we see Puerto Rican teams come in. Even, I was born and raised in Hawaii. We see some Hawaiian teams come in. Not as much height typically, but unbelievable. Like they have 10 people out there on the court that the ball can never hit the ground.
Ball control, defense. Yes. It was, it's hard. You still go to AUs, and then 10, 11, and 12. It's hard to beat the Puerto Rican teams, but the game has evolutionized so much that there's teams that have gained up. Like, for example, this year, I believe A5 won both 12 and under, division. So, you see that little by little we're catching up to them, So
the height is matching up with the ball control skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and girls are starting younger. Danny, let's talk a little bit more about Puerto Rico. Tell me about, just pride in the sport there. I know in Hawaii it's huge, and, it's like they take – almost personal if you're losing, and, if someone says you're not good at volleyball,
Listen, it's funny because I was watching Puerto Rico's currently playing right now in the World Cup for basketball, and I was watching. We're losing by 30 points. So I merely go to Facebook, and all you'll see is the comments by the Puerto Ricans, mad because we're losing, and, oh, look at this, a bunch of people we don't know, that kind of stuff. We take a lot of pride, man. You know, like, for example, when the World Baseball Classic happens, everybody in Puerto Rico, you know, they went what they call Team Rubio, Team Blonde. So everybody, like, dyed their hair and that kind of stuff. The first time around I dyed my hair, you know, it was, you breathe for the country. You know, you're like, you want that team to do the best. You know, when Monica Pugh won the gold medal, we cried with her when she won, you know, because it's so small, the island, that you know a lot of people. Like, and I will tell you something that I would say is in my, like, bucket list that I haven't done is represent my country. And, you know, I wanted to do as a player. I'm not going to do as a player, but maybe one day as a coach, you know, but you never know. So, but it's different, you know, playing for Puerto Rico and competing, you know, for that flag. You want to prove everybody, hey, we're small, but we're good, you know. So there's a lot of pride there, and especially in the island.
Yeah, we're trying to get a trip out to Puerto Rico sometimes so we can get more than, you know, there's lots of good volleyball anywhere in the world, but there's something special about taking kids back to your, you know, where you were born and raised and seeing the pride of it, seeing how training happens there, the culture and all that of the sport, you know.
I try to say that kids here are blessed because where we practice, it was cement. The roof, it was open. So if it rained one kind of way, there was no practice because the water was going to get in the court.
It was covered but not enclosed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there was courts that had no roof. So you were playing under the sun on cement. So you're going to learn how to dive.
Yeah.
My high school, the high school that I have, we, for years, like, even when my brother went to high school there, they didn't have any roof. It was all sun. Everybody playing under the sun. 5 years after I graduated, they put a roof, you know, in the court. So it's different. You know, there's not too many Terraflex. There's not too many air conditioning courts. You know, to this day, it's still like that. Yeah. So it's a blessing for these kids that are here that they can dive, you know, that kind of stuff. And sometimes they're like, it's too hot. Go play in Puerto Rico. You know?
I don't know if we're talking them in or out of going
there.
Know,
I don't know. But listen,
the food.
The food is good.
Yeah,
and
everything gets better that way.
I would like to take a group of kids to go watch a professional match in Puerto Rico, especially a match in the boys' side when you have, they call it El Duelo de la Montaña, when you have Naranjito and Corozal. Those two fans are amazing. Yeah. And if they don't fight each other, they're going to fight within them, you know, the fans. But it's one of the, you know, like, our biggest Coliseum in Puerto Rico used to get filled in the finals just to watch that, you know. So it's something else, you know. I don't even think you see that kind of charisma, you know. Like, for example, I remember long time ago, this guy was playing pro, and he was going to serve, and behind you got the fans. Of course, your fans are drinking or doing whatever. Something was screamed to this guy from the fans that this guy dropped the ball, turn around, and start fighting a fan in the middle of the game. You know, like, but that's the island volleyball. You know, I don't know if in Hawaii it's the same way, but in Puerto Rico, you know, there's, if you don't win, you might get punch, you know, especially in a big match. So stuff like that it makes it different than anybody else, you know. Yeah,
the competitive drive because of the pride in it is it's hard to explain unless you've like grew up in it and
especially if you're from the upper Naranjito, Corozal, man, those people take so much pride in the volleyball game. They even say that the volleyball was born in their area, you know. So it's funny. It's just fun, you know, fun environments. Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of move towards volleyball here.
Okay.
All right. Training players, right? So you have a lot of experience. I have a lot of experience in training players. Give us, and we'll go into a deep dive in it. Give us 30 seconds to go. I'm going to time you. Your best advice to players about getting into volleyball and wanting to compete and grow no matter what level they're at, you got 30 seconds to tell them whatever you think is your best advice from 20 years of coaching. Ready? Go.
Okay, so my best advice will be consistency. So there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of ways to teach the game. And the problem is that we have a lot of players in here that, not in our club, but in the States, they are called jumpers. Players that go and do a private lesson with you, then they come with me, then they go with him, then they go with there. And they're not being consistent in what they're learning, and because you might teach one way, I might teach a different way. So my advice to the kids is to find some kind of consistency to be able to progress to the best. And it's not has to be my way, it has to be your way. But if you find a coach and you never learn how to serve and that coach taught you how to serve, you know what? You're understanding the coach, you're learning the right way. Why change it? Just keep going back to that coach over and over so you can create some consistency. And that's the problem. The kids don't get consistent because they jump from coach to coach, So those kids, is the same with club. Kids that jump from club to club, they're trying to find a consistency. They're never going to get it because they don't understand that you have to get it to let it develop, So, and for example, in our club, you got a bunch of case of good consistency, like Ali Sweet. They've been playing for you guys, for a long time. Ava Garner, all these kids have been consistent with you guys, and now where they're going Division I volleyball. You got kids out there. Oh, I didn't make in D1. So, well, you jump club every year. So, I would my number one advice would be more consistent in your training and be more consistent in the decisions that you make when you're playing volleyball.
We talked about it in podcast 1 with Jeff Black that, if you throw someone 5 balls at the same time, they won't catch any of them, but you throw them one at a time and they'll catch all 5. So
I agree with that.
All right, so let's we'll pick your brain. 3 aspects of volleyball that I like to talk about, and I'll just let you kind of go through it on your own and talk about it. So the mental aspect, I think in developing an athlete, all 3 are important. The mental aspect, the physical aspect, and then technique side of things. So let's talk about the mental side and helping develop that. So I'll let you run loose with it, but I will give you some ideas of, girls dealing with pressure, processing information. A lot of girls will give them a lot of information. It takes a while for them to get it, or, especially at younger girls, ability to focus, ability to relate with other players, building team chemistry, controlling emotions, at the end of the day, not making excuses, finding ways to get jobs done, and all that, problem solving and things like that. So I'll just let you run loose and whatever you want to share on.
Well, in the mental aspect, I think that's one of the most important parts of the game because it comes to what we call the clutch, that time where we need that kill, we need that pass, and it starts with my philosophy as a coach, like. If something that I have good is, then I'm not going to say 100% because it's not perfect, but I would say 85 to 90% of the players that play with me would like to play again. You always got that 1 or 2 players that they didn't like me because they didn't play too much, and it's just the treatment, the kind of relationship that we have with those kids, that they feel comfortable when you're talking to them, that you can create that kind of father, daughter, or mentor kind of aspect with the kids, because if they trust you completely, when the time is come, you're gonna ask them to do something, and you say, "Yeah, I got you." If there's no trust, they're not gonna be able to perform for you. And I think that's the biggest part, is that there has to be that trust between that player coach, and then you cannot lie to these kids. You got to tell them straight out how it is. And I think I do a very good job of it. Sometimes my mouth gets me in trouble because I'm very sarcastic and but I tell the kids right on the front, but I'm very honest with the kids. I don't lie to them. If you come to my team and say, hey, you're going to have the opportunity to play, but you're going to have to work, it's going to be a straight that. If you work, you're going to have the opportunity to play. But it's just trusting the kids. And in the mental aspect and technical, you want to make sure. So, for example, I I used to coach with this guy, and it's not that he's a great coach, but you got to a point where scores 24-23, you call a timeout, and you're telling your outside, hey, when the ball comes, you got to set your feet, you got to drop your shoulder, you got to hold your platform, you got to make sure that right finger that you have in your leg doesn't go too far forward. You want to make sure that you don't swing too much. So when the ball comes, you make contact, and then you open. Listen, this kid, when the ball comes, he's going to pass the ball to the wall because she's focusing on all this kind of stuff. And you keep it simple. Hey, let's pass the ball to target, and let's swing, and let's get the point because you can do it. Boom, done. And the kid in her head said, man, this guy trusting me, Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work, but like 90% of the time for me has worked. Hey, do you want the ball? Are you sure? Okay, give her the ball. She got it. You got it. Let's go. Boom. Palm in the back. Boom. Get it ready. Kid is ready to go. My brother, I learned a lot from my brother. He's my mentor when it comes to coaching. I remember one of his national championship with OTBA. He's in, I don't remember what city it was. I know he's playing, and the kids are a little freaked out. He calls a timeout, and he tells the kids to sit down. And he starts talking like Donald Duck. And what do the kids do? They start laughing. So the whole pressure that they had of the game is gone. So different stuff like that, say a joke sometime. It doesn't have to be about the game or like something I like to do a lot. Time out. You guys figure out, let them, they have the ability to do it, and they're going to trust you in it. Now it's different with younger kids, you got to guide them more, but I will say that ability to have a trust between the player and the coach is very important.
Yeah, Danny, I think, I still like competing, and half of it is because I like competing, but the other half is it helps me as a coach to like get those feelings again. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's game point, and what if they serve me, or I have to go back and make a good play, or I have to hit this ball on game point, or those feelings come back, and you want to win, you don't want to let your team down and lose. So I think dealing with that pressure and whatnot is huge, and understanding that. So, but like you said, girls won't really care about how much you know until they know how much you care. So building that relationship takes time. It's kind of a weird conundrum in my experience that bad judgment leads to good judgment. And so coaching progression over the years, when I first started, I thought if I was the drill sergeant, then it would all work out because they had no choice and I had all the power. Not, that's an exaggeration, but now it's a better balance of, hey, I'm here to help you, but hey, you're getting out of line, so I have to be a little bit of drill sergeant. Okay, I don't have to be drill sergeant anymore, but this moving fluid, girls have better days and worse days at practice and whatnot.
And you say that, let me ask you a question. Did you get into the miracle phase? Did you ever, as a coach, went into the miracle phase? And the miracle phase is when the movie Miracle, remember the USA national team came out, a lot of coaches, me included, went into the miracle phase. Every time they made a mistake, they went to the sideline, touched the sideline, come back again. Yeah. And it got proven that it doesn't work. So there was a time where I got into the miracle phase, and one of the kids called me out on it, said, this is not a movie, and we're not hockey players. This is not Miracle. We're volleyball players. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I got into a miracle phase, and a lot of coaches got into a miracle phase. And, like, sometimes, like you say, it doesn't work. You got to be a drill sergeant, but at the same time, especially with our generation this day, you got to be a little bit more, easygoing.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually will get to that, the evolution of volleyball on that, Danny. But, yeah, we can go down that later. But I totally agree that it takes time for coaches to develop. I think that's why we had our, 2-day, all-day coaches meeting is to help them see and kind of learn from our mistakes and help them learn that, hey, yelling at them isn't necessarily the best idea. This is, doing a drill where one girl is touching the ball and 10 are waiting, just general principles of training. So hopefully we can help them through the year. All right, physical aspect. Let's talk strength, speed, agility, jumping, lateral movement, all that, developing that part of it. And
very, very important. Find a way to incorporate into your practice conditioning with volleyball, and that's something that I like that we do here. I like the fact that we don't have our own conditioning program and we have the kids come in an hour early. Why? Because sometimes those kids work out for 1 hour, and when they come to practice, they're not 100%. And their studies show that after 2 hours, the kid is not learning anything. So think about it. You come on for an hour, you work out, you practice for an hour. The other hours waste. It's a waste. So, put it all together. Like we do a lot of jumping to box. Now we're working the physical aspect of jumping. And then when we get to the box, we're working on how to rotate our shoulders, how to hit the ball. So now we're working our technical aspect. So, we have put everything together in that aspect. So I would just say find a way to incorporate the movement and all that kind of stuff. For example, if you come to one of my practice, if I got 14, 15 players, nobody's not doing anything. There's drills where everybody's doing something, and if somebody's standing, that's a problem. Everybody got to be moving. Everybody got to doing something, and you got coaches watching. Especially and more when we're doing master coaching, that you got all these coaches around, and we have all the kids working. You have to have them all the time engaged, because at the same time, you only got them for 2 hours, so you don't have them for that much time. But you don't want to go more than 2 hours. So I'm very big in not including that hour of conditioning. Just do conditioning the next. Conditioning is, I'm not saying it's bad, it's great, but do it on a different day. Like if you practice Monday, Wednesday, come Thursday for conditioning, or Tuesday, Thursday, come Wednesday for conditioning. But incorporate that aspect in the game in practice.
Yeah, we, Danny, I don't know if you know, but so when we started 575, we said, hey, we're going to do 3 hours of master coaching. And then it was like after 2 hours, and we were pushing them pretty hard. After that, we were like, oh, we got an hour and these girls are done. So
done.
Then after year one, we're like, no more 3 hours of master
but
coaching.
you as a coach are done after 3 hours, after 2 hours. Like the days that I used to dread the most were the days where you had a team back to back. Because one team is going to get 100% of you. Yeah. The other team is getting 75, 80, 90%, So you have to balance the way you do stuff, Mm-hmm. So one team I used to have my assistant coach do more of the work. The other team I used to push them, I used to work more with them. But now I used to give them time both in the game to both of them, But it's draining. It's harder, and we're not getting any younger. So – the kids are, but we're not.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, this is my little rant for, athletes in general out there. There's really no such thing as overtraining, just under recovery. So you have to manage it. More is not better. Better is better. And that just comes with wisdom. Like there's a reason, why the pros aren't, like look at NFL players. They're not going hard every day. They go through their walkthroughs. They want to be peaked for performance time. They need recovery from a long weekend. Obviously, that's a much more gruesome sport with more physical contact. But say you're playing a 3-day competitive weekend at a USA qualifier, the next day of practice, like the girls will be better off if they just rest and recover from that and get their bodies right. So you got to treat your body, it's a machine, and it needs to be fueled right. It needs to recover right. And it's going to break down, or it's going to get strengthened depending on how you treat that. So, all right, Danny, technique aspect, we're going to save that into setting, because right now this is kind of the meat and potatoes I want to talk about with Danny here. So let's go into setting here. Okay. Break down for me 2 parts. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on one part, 30 seconds on the other. Just setting technique. Then we'll talk about that. Then I'll give you 30 seconds to break down setters, the position. So technique, just give me, hey, I want to get really good at setting. I got to go in 30 seconds. What can I learn from you before I leave? And I might not ever see you again. All right, ready, go.
Your feet, you got to make sure you got the right footwork. That's the most important part when it comes to setting. You got to make sure that your footwork is correct. Now, old school is left-right footwork. Nowadays, a lot of coaches are teaching the right, left, right to create more space and get more closer to the ball. So you got to get your feet right, correct. And the other more important part is where to catch the ball when you're setting. Like I like to use my technique when it comes to your hands, a catch release technique. So you got to catch the ball in certain area. If you don't catch the ball in the right spot, you're not going to be able to have a good set. So for me, your feet very important, and then that second part with another is catch and release in the right spot.
All right, awesome. 49 seconds, not bad.
Okay.
All right, that's all right. Okay, now let's talk about just setters, the position, in 30 seconds. Ready, go.
You got to be smart. You got to read the game. You got to know. I think that the setter is like the setter is the quarterback. The setter is the point guard. You got to know all your hitter weakness. You got to know the other team weakness. You got to know where's the smaller blocker, where's the bigger blocker. How is that libero moving on defense? What hitter in your team is clutch? Who you're going to say in the right time? Who you're not going to say in the right time?
All right, Danny, look at that. Made it up. 25 seconds. Let's go. Okay, you went into a lot of what we're going to talk about. Okay, so like we talked about earlier, Coach Danny set for the high school team that went to go play college and semi-pro as a setter. So this is kind of, specifically for setters, but it applies for any position, right? You want to take a deep dive into every position and understand the nuances of that position and gain every little advantage you can. So, all right, Danny, running the offense for setters, right? When we try to teach girls, especially beginner girls, hey, working on setting, this is how you work on it. Later, as they get better, we go from, okay, I can set a ball. So now I'm big on, okay, now the ball needs to get only two things. Ball needs to get to the right spot at the right time. Mm-hmm. Right spot, right time. Don't think about, was the set high enough? Was the set too far out? Like some sets have to be higher. Some sets have to be lower depending on the pass. Some sets have to be pushed out a little more. Some sets are closer. But is it the right spot and the right time? And we want that ball there at the right spot at the right time. So let's go into talking about that, and I'll kind of give you a little more preface about that. All right, when the ball is set too high, the hitter has to wait, slow down. Defense has more time. Mm-hmm. When the ball is set too fast, the hitter can't get there fast enough. The ball is below the net. Hitter is running too fast into the net without taking a jump. So just tell me about, we hear the word tempo and all that, but just kind of talk about generally setters being able to locate the ball to the right spot at the right time. Just the principle more, not the technique.
Okay. So I talk a lot about the right eye. Like you got to catch that ball, make sure your contact point when you're setting the ball is in that right eye. And if you're square completely to the outside and you get the ball in the right eye, that's going to go perfect to where the target is going to be. When he talks about height, you got to create a right angle on the ball. Now, all depends on the age group, all depends on the team. 18 and under, we're adding a little bit more stuff when it comes to that pass to attack situation where all depends where the ball is. The setter will set the ball one way, and always try to keep the same tempo in the ball. And that's the most important part. I think that there's only one setter, there's 6 hitters. If that setter is trying to set 6 different balls, it's not going to happen. You know why I know that? Because that's my experience as a player. My first year in college, I struggled a lot because I was trying to set a ball to this guy, ball to that guy, to this guy. And then one of the players told me, said, hey, you're struggling because you're trying to set different balls. Set one ball. Okay, so I set the same ball all the time, and everybody adjusted to me. So one ball to the outside, one ball to the middle, one ball to the right side. Granted, if you got a guy that jumps a little bit more higher, then maybe you got to raise it a little bit. But location and tempo, as long as you keep it the same, everybody got to adjust to you. That's my philosophy as a coach when it comes to setting.
Yeah, I think that's for the level we're at through 18s, I think that's 100% correct. I think if you get to high level and you have different girls coming at different speeds and your passing is more consistent, your skill level is much higher, you can start getting into more of that, obviously. setters, when the ball is set too high, like we talked about it, right? So this is why we're big on the ball being set through the right spot at the right time. When the ball is set too high, it's hard for hitters to time it, and we don't want that ball being really high, low, all this, and hitters are just kind of going through this staggered approach, and they never quite build the speed they need and get the contact height they need to come through the ball at the right time. So, yeah. Your next goal is, once you can set the ball, work on getting that consistency. Like Coach Danny said, we'll talk about, but it's footwork, it's mechanics, it's receiving the ball at the right time, reading the pass. So, all right, creating offensive advantages. I'll go through 5 of them that I listed, and then we can talk about that as setters. So like you said, all right, single blocks, right? It's almost impossible for an offense to always get no block.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be in double blocks on every single set. So our ultimate goal is to try to maximize single blocks, where it's a one-on-one versus a hitter and a blocker. To the tempo setting will help create that. But, if we can get the ball moved around at the right time and to the right spot, it'll help that. So our tempo setting. 3, like you talked about, attacking smaller blockers. So if we have a spot on the net that's easier to penetrate, much easier. It can also be slower blockers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if we can keep the ball moving, even though a girl is tall, if she can't get there, it makes her smaller or non-existent. 4, changing the hitter's routes, right? So we call them plays, free ball plays, quicker, faster, outside, inside, back row, front row, whatever. Then 5th, which I don't think a lot of setters are taught this, or they might know it but don't know how to do it, is a consistent neutral setter position so that it doesn't give it away before the set. So again, single blocks, tempo setting, attacking smaller / slower blockers, changing hitters' routes, consistent neutral setter position, or not giving it away. So tell me about, or just talk about creating these offensive advantages.
All
and
of
if I
those,
missed anything.
No. All of those are correct, 100%. I think the neutral part is very important because the middle is taught to read your head. So any little movement that you make back and forth, the middle is going to know. But something that you didn't hit on, like, for example, when I do my offense, and is that every first ball that is come, game starts, they serve, we serve, doesn't matter. That first ball has to go to the middle. That other side needs to understand that we will use our middles as much as we need to. Why? Because everybody knows when the score gets to the 20s, it's an outside hitter, right side game. But you need to have your middles involved. So I like to use my middles early. So number 1, the other team knows that my middle's being used. Number 2, my middle knows they're gonna be used. And when the game comes, like the same way I do my commitment block and all that kind of stuff in defense, the other teams are going to do it. And now we're working, we're playing a chess game. What move I'm going to make that is going to be successful against that team at the end. So, for example, a lot of coaches say, hey, run your middle on a 3 and set the right side, because there you're pushing that middle on the other side to go, and then you get a one-on-one situation. Perfect. But if you don't set the middle, it's not going to happen. Or run your middle on a 1 so you can set the outside. So you have to start running the middle. There was this coach that used to coach at OVA my first 2 years that I was there, and he said to me, you will never win a national championship without a good outside and with good middles. So that's a lie. You can have great middles and you can have a good outside, and you can still win as long as your team passes well. And that was a credit to when I was playing high school. I used to have 2 6'4" middles, nasty guys in the middles, and my outside hitters were average, but they passed the ball straight, and I put the ball right there, and then the middles go and hit the ball. As long as you establish those middles early, the game is going to be easier at the end for everybody else, because those blockers need to stay put. So everything that you said was correct. Everything we talk about, move the hitters around, that kind of stuff, but you have to be able to move that middle first.
All right, Danny. So we had little technical difficulties we're working on, but let's recap that establishing the middle.
Yeah, establish
the setters creating advantages.
Yeah, you establish the middle early. Once you establish the middle early, then when the game goes into like 20s, then that middle can be used as a decoy, or it can be used as a hitter that you got to set her the ball. And that's a lot of faults. Coaches just get buy into setting the ball to the outside, the right side every time when the score gets to the 20s. And, like, I am a little bit different there. You got to use the middles. Even if your middles are not good, use them. Like, you surprise. Boom, oh, she got the kill, yeah. So just establish that middle early.
Yeah. There's also, right, Danny, like in a perfect world, every ball would be passed to target, and middles would 9 out of 10 times have a single block anyway. Like, it's too hard if the ball's passed to target and you're running a pretty decent quick tempo one, even with an average middle, just the speed of the ball from the hands of the setter to the attack keeps everyone on edge, because it's so hard to predict how fast. You don't get to see the hitter wind up and all that. You're trying to watch the hitter, trying to watch the setter, trying to watch the outside and all that stuff. So there's obviously, if you can run that middle off good passing, it'll help establish all that. And so setters, establish your middles, right, and keep making sure you work on that. It's also, in my opinion, the hardest to time, because if the pass isn't perfect, you're always trying to find these weird angles where the middle's close to you, but on the outside you can throw the ball out there and the hitter has time to adjust on that. So, all right, okay, setters, Danny, evaluating after each set that they make, after each set that they play, each rotation, because rotation 1, hey, I got these strengths. Rotation 2, I got these strengths, right, where my hitters are and where my blockers are. All the matchups change with each rotation. Then evaluating after each attack by a hitter. So, hey, I set the ball outside 5 times, I got 5 kills. Hey, I set the middle 5 times, I got no kills. Like, evaluate why it's working on the outside, why it's working on the middle. So just kind of.
Yeah, and I'm a big guy of, if it's working, why change it? So as a coach, you also got to keep track, hey, in rotation 1, the game started and Susie had got a kill on the outside. But when we get to rotation 1, there's no reason to have Susie on stacker, so you put her in that situation. Setters need to always look at the ball. Listen, one of the volleyball problems, number 1, that we have in volleyball is that the setter is the only one that knows where the ball's going, and they never cover. They never follow that ball. So you have to follow the ball, number 1, to cover, and number 2, to see the location, to see the height, to see how the hitter reacts to it. If you go to a ball and the hitter doesn't even jump, so now you know that you got a bad set. So you always got to keep your mind, and you got to be conscious of what you're doing and where you're setting the ball and how that ball is set and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Setters also develop some thick skin, because you're going to make 10 good sets and everyone's going to be happy and screaming. You're going to get those highlight reels, and then you make a bad set and instantly what's the hitter going to say? Hey, I need the ball higher. I need the ball here. Can you do this? And hey, it's just par for the course.
When I play, you ask for the ball, you better get a kill, because you're not getting the ball anymore. And then if you complain about it, you don't get the ball anymore until you say sorry. And, sometimes you have to do it. You got to be strong, like, it's not being a bad person. You just got to show the team. Like, for example, I don't know about you, but in my teams, 90% of the time, my captains are my setters, because they're the one that run the game. Some teams are different, some coaches are different. But for me, the setter, because they're the ones, like, you have to be one with that coach, and that setter needs to understand when you're making a mistake, and it's funny because my brother was playing yesterday, and I was watching his match, and the setter that he has used to be a setter with me in TK. And I'm over here like, man, if I was coaching this kid, I would be killing her right now because of the decision she was making, and it came out that, like, my brother was mad at her too because she was not making the right decision. And I promise you, that kid knows that the decision she was making was not right. So, we just, you and the setter have to have the most connection with each other, especially coach and setter.
Yeah. Setters also have the most influence on the game as far as manipulating more people. Like, they can manipulate 6 people on defense and technically 4 people on offense of, 3 front row and a back row. Sometimes if you have no libero, you can have 5 hitters. Well, but
think about it. The game is in your hands, you know. Like, I don't like my coach, I'm just going to dump the ball with the game over. So you got to, number 1, make sure you create that relationship with the coach every time, and coaches create that good relationship with the setters.
Yeah. All right, let's go into setter defense. So after setting, there's setter defense and setter serving. I think are probably their two most important. We'll get to setter serving, but yeah, why are you saying who? And let's talk about setter defense.
Like a lot of setters don't like to play defense.
Yeah.
Like I was telling somebody the other day, like, how's your defense? Not good. So I know, because you're a setter and you don't like to play defense.
Yeah.
Setters don't like to play defense. They think the defense is coming by. No. Like, I like setters that are another libero in the court, in that right back, because think about it. 90% of the coaches attack the setter. Attack the setter. So if you attack the setter, you got to have a setter that plays defense, number one, and a good libero that can use their hands and can set the ball. So setting defense, like, that they say defense win games, right? Yeah. Setter defense win championships. If you can play defense on the right back, you're going to win a lot of matches, And sometimes you might not have the best setter per se setting, but you have the best defensive setter playing in the game. So setting defense is very important. Yeah. It's actually, for me, it's like top 3 in the game. And for me, it's serving, passing, and setter defense. Yeah. If I'm going to do that, so it's very important for me.
Nice. Hey, I don't see setters ever coming to our defense libero
passing they never
clinic,
come.
But they should.
They should, of course. Like they need to work on their defense. And then you never see a coach most of the time working on the defense on the right back with the setters. 90% of the time, coaches, what they do, setter set. They don't work on the right. They need to work. They need to push the setters to play defense. They need to teach them where to go and that kind of stuff. The same way you train a libero, you need to train a setter.
Yeah.
So like for example, you train the game. You're a coach. Why in your practice you're tossing the ball to the setter at the net?
Yeah.
Like, think about it. That never happens. It never happens. So you got to train what's going to happen in the game. And if you don't train setter defense, you're going to be screwed,
I got you. Yeah. So, hey, setters, work on your defense. All right, Danny, real quick. Typically, what are their options? We can push them up, depending on where the set is. But, a lot of coaches are like, oh, we'll push them up. We don't want the setters to go back and play line.
Play rotation defense.
Yes, and so just push them up, leave them up, cover the tips, get up closer to target.
Like what was it, last year? Yeah, no, not last year. Year before. A couple of years ago, I used to have a team, and we play man-up defense. And the setter just rotated in the 10-foot line all over the place. Why are you playing that defense? Oh, because it's good, because of this. No, setter would not play any defense. So let's get her get the tip every single time and put her in a good situation. So we used to play man-up defense. I do a lot of, when the ball goes to the outside, out of system, I do a lot of what we call read, and we push the setter straight up so we can get the setter out of the way. She can be ready to set the ball out of system. So, like, you also put the setters in situations that, if you got a setter that it doesn't like to play defense, doesn't work hard, and you got another setter that is the same way, you're going to have to find a way to move your defense in the best spot.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have that problem and we can play a lot of defense on that right back. So,
yeah, I got you. Okay, setter serving, right? A lot of teams will start with their setter there, unless they're, she's a big, huge, front row 5-1 setter. It doesn't matter. She can start anywhere, but a lot of teams will start with the setter serving. Just makes sense. Save your subs, especially if you're running a 6-2, and a setter will serve. So I think that's one strength that they should really develop.
I always start with my setter either on right back or my setter on right front, because she's going to be the best server. She should be the best server, but it's also like a chess game. Like I always say, there's time that, like, still there's no time, but doesn't matter the age group. You can go 18s, you can go college all the way to 10 and under, and the game is going to be serving, passing every time. If you serve well, you pass well, you're going to have the opportunity to win. Doesn't matter the team that is on the other side. We saw a lot of upsets this weekend in the college game, because of the serve and pass, so, like, but your setter needs to be a strong server. She cannot be afraid of serving, with power and serving to the right spot, because I don't think power is the most important thing. It's just serving to the right spot too. So setter need to learn how to control the ball when they're serving too.
Nice. All right, specific skills let's talk about now for setters. All right, footwork. We you talked a little bit about it, the left, right, and right, left, right. Let's talk about both single and double-footed setting, right? We've gone into setting off the right leg and all that. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about that.
So the way I train, I had gone into the right, left, right route a little bit more. Starting setters are 40 and up. Setters are starting to be better. We've got to start jumping. I like to use the jump stop a lot. I like to teach the step, hop, jump to create rhythm on the setters. When the ball is off the net, we talk about the pocket. You know, it's like the quarterback. Every time the quarterback is away that pocket, you see them scrambling towards one leg or stuff like that. So we are in the pocket. If we're going to go to the middle of the court or we're going to go to our right, we're spinning out of the right foot. And I'm talking about 1 or 2 steps out of that pocket, we're spinning on the right foot. If we're going behind us, we're spinning off our left foot. So everything, it makes you more dynamic and it makes you be in rhythm. It puts you in rhythm more. So middle of the court, 14 up, step, hop, jump. Outside of the pocket, everything is one leg spin. Everything one leg spin, either jumping or no jumping. So that's the way I like to teach the setters. You know, when they're younger, we'll talk about more squaring and that kind of stuff. But I like them to be more dynamic, you know, and be able to use their feet more and they look better. You know, like I like to tell the kids this. You're going out, you're going to this date. You're not going to go on spandex and flip-flops and a T-shirt. You're going to look nice, right? You want to impress. So it's the same when you're playing the game. You know, you want that college coach to be watching you, see, oh, look at the setter. She can, you know, jump and put the ball there. You know, maybe she saw one ball and you did one right, but you saw that one. You know, maybe the rest were horrible, but you saw that one. You know, so you have to be able to present yourself the best way possible. You know, so the same, you know, when we're coaching, you know, we dressed up. I'm the kind of guy that I like to match everything that I wear, you know, every time. So I'm matching. You know, I even bought shoes for the season because all my shoes, I didn't have any boots, so I got to get boots. So I got shoes, you know, for the season, that kind of stuff. So you have to be able to dress to impress. So you play to impress too. So that's very important for me.
Look good, feel good, play good, or coach good, right?
Coach good and then win good, you know, you look good.
Yeah. Hey, and Danny, I want to make sure the girls understand. There's principles to understand. We don't just teach girls to set off one leg. We want you to understand the general principles, build foundations, and then go from there, right? I kind of related to, hey, kids don't ever cross the road by themselves because they don't understand the dangers of the road, but it's not crossing the road. It's just understanding how to cross the road.
Well,
right?
and yeah,
then later, you can cross the road, obviously.
That's why I said 14 up, depending on the level.
Yeah.
If you're 14, you never played before, I'm not going to throw you over there, hey, spin. No. Let's get square, learn how to square, learn how to get your body there, that kind of stuff. Then the more advanced kids, that's how you train them to that area. You know?
It kind of relates to, midline and outside angle passing. Like, perfect world, you always could pass midline because the ball is high and you can get your feet around it and your hips around it. But in a real world, you're never going to be able to get there. So you have to learn both and understand the mechanics behind both and when to use each. And so, Okay. Jump setting. 14-ish and up.
14 up. Unless you got a 13-year-old that's stud, but 14 up, it's not that you have to jump set every time, but every ball that they can jump set, and create rhythm every time you're setting the ball. The problem starts when you got setters, and this is something that I hate. You jump set to the middle, you stand set to the outside. Either sometimes you jump set to the right side. You're not being consistent. So either you're going to stand set every single time. When I play, I used to stand set, and the ball came out beautiful. I was perfect stand standing. But if you're going to jump as much as possible. There's time that you got to stand, but jump as much as possible. So you got to be consistent in what you're doing. But 14 up, I will say we got to start working on that jump setting. Yeah.
The jump setting also for girls, right? It looks cooler and whatnot, but it also delivers the ball a little quicker. It also, your higher contact point, especially for middles, right? We don't wait for the ball to come down. You can play the ball higher and the middles can hit it even that much quicker out of it. The other thing is it allows your legs and your body, as you get better and you're more consistent at jump setting, it allows your legs and your body to create a lot more force, and your hands can barely move and the ball has has tons of power. So you can have so much fine control by jump setting because you have this reserve of power through moving this mass, and then the hands just kind of finish where they need to go. So, there's points to that. And this is kind of random, but Marco Mioni, who won the gold medal for Italy, he came here and he was the setter on that team. This is, don't quote me, but some early mid 90s. But he came over here, did a setting clinic, and he said there's 9 different release points when you're setting, and that can all change your tempo. And he said from a standing, there's 3 different release points that are lower, higher, and higher. He said you can play with the set just on your replay. There's a moderate jump set and then a full, typical jump set. So he said all of those, but kind of opened my eyes to just the detail that they play on and the tempo and how they change it. So
it's different at that level.
Yeah. So, incredible. So, all right. Other skills that they need to work on, reading and releasing on defense, right? Sometimes we'll try to help create that on the defense. Other times setters have to learn that.
And learn where that blocker is, especially stay away from the block. Look at the hitter's hand. Where's the hitter facing? There's a lot of stuff you got to read. You got to be able to stop, read. Something I like to do, and I haven't done it since I moved to Georgia, but used to do a lot in Orlando, is put a GoPro in the head and see, look, this is what you're reading. So, like different stuff like that.
Yeah. That's, Danny, when I was watching the World Olympics going on right now for track and field, and one of the athletes came up and, I just make this story short. He came up and was getting interviewed at the end, and, he said, hey, the interviewer was like, hey, how did you deal with this moment that, isn't really part of running and whatnot? He says, hey, my coach always talks about uncoachable moments. And he says, I can't prepare you for every single moment, but I have to prepare you to be successful in uncoachable moments. So you can't really tell a kid like, hey, when the ball is going outside, this is where it's going to go. They have to learn how to deal with that and read and, and be in that situation. So blocking for setters.
Important, if you got a setter that can block, you don't have to run a 6'2". The only good thing and bad thing about 6'2", okay, so the good thing is you got 2 strong hitters.
For newer families, 6'2", give them a breakdown on a 5'1",
so
6, really quick.
6'2" is when you have 2 setters, 3 hitters all the time, front row. So you go to your 3 rotation with your setter back row, your hitter. When your setter gets front row, you get another hitter coming in for that setter, and you get another setter coming in for the right side. So you always have 2 hitters, 3 hitters, 2 setters, 3 hitters, 2 setters. When 5'1" is you got a setter that doesn't get out front row, always set all the way around. So you have now 5 hitters, 1 setter. So to make it more simple. So you always have the same setter. So the difference between 5'1" and 6'2", you're always going to have that offense. But most of the time, it's hard to find 2 setters that set the same way. So you're always going to have a setter that's set better than the other setter. For the 5'1", you're always going to have that consistency in the game, but like I like, unless I have a good right side, I like the 5'1" more. But if we have 2 good right sides, you have to run a 6'2", even if you don't like to, but you have to. But all my life, I usually run a 5'1", but depends, like if I have 2 good right sides, we go for a 6'2".
Yeah. The higher levels run a 5'1", and especially the men's game and younger run a 5'1". But 6'2" is still very, very common in the female.
Sorry, in the Olympics, in those higher levels, you only got 6 subs.
Yeah.
So, it's not too much sub in there. So we got 12. We're lucky.
Yeah. Okay, blocking, right? So setters... something to work on if you are going to run a 5'1". All right, let's talk about the midline and shoulder setting. So midline is all the sets that when we're on the net, we can run the ball straight through our midline and we're squared to the outside and perpendicular. So here's the net. I'm facing this way, and that's, I guess, depending on how you want to look at the net. The net's this way. My shoulders are opposite the line of the net, and that's my midline setting where the ball goes forward, up, forward and up, depending on your tempo, up and back or back. And then if I get off the net, I try to square to the outside. But then the shoulder setting is where it's not going forward And these are sets that are usually back row sets if I'm on the net. If I'm off the net, these could be right side sets, or if I can't quite get squared, I have to learn how to set the ball over different shoulders, which is not true midline.
If you're going off the net, square your body. I'd like to say square to the pole, more to the antenna. And then if you're going to the right side, you want to make sure you rotate over your right shoulder and your hands finishing that way and create a body rotation over the right shoulder. For the middle, you can even go square and then set a little bit, not rotating onto your right shoulder, but rotate your body a little bit when that middle is attacking for the 3-ball. When you're on the net, always, most of the time, that ball is going off your left shoulder. If you're setting to the back row, you're going to the right back over your left shoulder, middle back over your left shoulder. Even if you're going into a sky ball, it's between 5, you're still going over a little bit your left shoulder. So
yeah. So girls may learn that concept. If it's a little confusing, you're always trying to get the ball to the best position for the hitter to succeed, and that's as close to the net as possible on skill level. So at 12s, we don't want it really tight on the net because they're not big enough, whereas a big 18-year-old, we can push them on the net and let them fight a little more on the net. But if I'm 12 feet off the net, I don't set the ball 12 feet. I have to push the ball back forward, and a lot of times I do have to set over a shoulder because I am, so far off the net, I have to push the ball back closer to the net. Okay. Then our position 4 system, it might be hard to explain on the podcast, but we can talk a little bit about that, Danny. So at target is position 1. That's the best position to set from and run an offense. That's roughly 2/3 of the way towards the right side where target is. So if you play volleyball, you know where target is. And we live in a right-hander's world, so it's on the right side. If it were all lefties in this world, we'd run target on left side. But anyways, all right, position 1 there. Position 2 is slightly to the left of center on the net still. So we have target at position 1. We labeled it position 2 when setting because that's the second best position to set from. We want to pass the ball in front of the setter, more towards the center of the court. Position 3 is still on the net behind the setter. We don't want the setter to have to back up, but it's better for her to have to back up a little than to run off the net and have to set from 10 feet. When we're on the net and our setter can get there, we can still run our middle very, very effectively because it's easier for that angle for that middle. And then position 4 is off the net, directly off from target. So just think of it as position 1 at target, and then coming off 10 feet, that's position 4. So position 1 at target, position 2 roughly towards the center, a little past center on the net, position 3 behind the setter, then position 4 off. It makes this kind of triangle, and that's where we teach our setters how to run an offense. If it's outside of that power, what'd you call it, Danny? Where they're in that position of power to run the middle and...
I call it the off the pocket, you mean?
Pocket, yeah, the pocket.
Out of the pocket. Yeah, that will be actually our pocket in what you're saying, the 1, 2, 3, 4, that will be our pocket.
Yeah, so and that's where we want to run the offense. That's where all the setters have to learn how to set every single set from position 1, 2, 3, 4. And then obviously it's not an absolute, it's relative. So you might be between 1 and 2, between 1 and 4, but you're learning those extreme concepts and then you're putting it together. So we'll leave that at that for another time. Okay, last thing on setters, intangibles. We kind of mentioned it, but leadership, constant communication with passers and hitters, and you're pretty much the one player that's always having to better the ball.
Better the ball every single time, and then I will add to that the relationship with the coach. The setter and the coach need to be in the same page every single time, like to the point that you should know what the coach wants. And the coach doesn't need to tell you. Like early in the year, it's like playing video games with the setters. You got to tell them what to do. But then once a year and they understand what you want, you let them go a little bit more and they know what to do. And if they mess up, they turn around and say, "I'm sorry, I know that's not what you want." So you got to have that relationship with that player. It's very important.
Yeah. Hey, Danny, this is a total funny story, but so I like playing chess, and they have this game where it's called hand and brain chess. So you and I play chess against each other. There's someone standing behind us. They're the brain, we're the hand. So all they say is pawn. I got 8 pawns in front of me. They'll say pawn, and I'm like, I have to think what he's thinking and try to make the best move with any of the pawns. Your teammate will say knight. So you'll have to figure out which knight to move and where.
Gosh.
And as you keep playing, it gets more complex. And then they'll say, queen. And I'm like, there's 7 moves. I don't know which one.
One?
It's kind of like that. But then it's absolutely incredible that these teams that have been playing a while, they start saying it. And it's like they're almost like making the move as they're saying it. Like as I say it, it's like what they're thinking is coming out. So kind of that's what the setter and coach needs to do.
I think it's very, for me, satisfaction to see a setter do something in the crush time without you telling her because she already understands. There's nothing better than that. Seeing the 2 biggest satisfaction for me as a coach is that's number 1. Number 2 is when you get a stop block in the key moment. Those are the 2. So
nice. Okay, let's go 2 more parts on this, and we'll finish the podcast with this. All right, evolution of volleyball over the past 20 years. We kind of talked about it. Mm-hmm. All right, what are the primary differences? It's hard too, Danny, because you and I have been coaching for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. It's hard to have people on here that can kind of see the evolution of change. So what do you think has changed over 20 years? I'm not saying for better or for worse, just the change itself. Athleticism, mental focus, ability to problem solve, competitive drive, time they want to be on the court versus not, and just in general.
I would say, in general, I would say the passion for the game a little bit, like especially with this generation, you would think the passion will be lost, but no, it's still there, and the kids want to get better. You see more kids, like there's kids that play high school and they practice every day, so they go Monday to Saturday and they come and work with us on a Sunday. So, like if you go to when I used to play, Sunday's off. I'm gonna have fun. Yeah. And if I didn't have a tournament on Saturday, I'm having fun Saturday and Sunday. I don't want to see a volleyball court, but now these days it's a little bit different. Kids like to come and train and play and work hard, And like for example, my son, he's a basketball player. And he likes to be in the gym 24/7 if you live in working on basketball. So the kids this day are more prone to go to the gym and work hard,
Yeah, I can see that too. Like I think part of it is the competition has risen, so you're going to get left behind if you don't.
I agree.
But also, I think it's just, it's a good break for kids that are like, I can always be on my phone. I can always be involved with other stuff. But it's good mentally, physically, emotionally, for me to just get out, put my phone. Like you can't be on the court working hard with a phone or with something, right? So it's a good break, and you just feel good after a hard training session or practice or whatnot. So, being at different clubs now, and you're new to 575 somewhat. Kind of just tell me, good or bad, what you've seen over years, and especially a learning lesson for Jeff and I and whatnot. But I'll give you some ideas, but you just kind of talk about whatever you want to talk about from just a club perspective, and I'll throw a lot out there. We'll go through just the first one: volleyball training, practice plan, structure, progressions, like just over the years of that.
So, I will say this: like here in 575. Like, you guys have a plan already for the future. You guys have a plan. Like, me and you already have been talking about what's going to happen. October 23rd is our first
season
opener. And we are we're September, so it's a month away. Yeah. So your organization part of what we're going to do that day, we're already discussing, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're talking, and we'll sit down the next couple of days and make it all together. So your planification for the future right now, I compare a lot to what used to be at OTBA, when we used to, Cindy Yvonne, Cindy used to do that a lot. She used to plan, okay, so this is what we're going to do. They want that kind of stuff. Also, my brother, they used to be a coach. He already knew what was going on. Roberto, another coach there, Felix, they used to know what they're going on. Here is the same way. Compared to other places that I've been, where they want, what are we doing? When I get there, I'll let you know. So like the planification organization right now is a match.
Yeah. I think the whole, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So you have to have a plan. And I say this obviously because most people know that, but like create your plan for whatever you want to do. But if volleyball clubs don't have a plan to help the girls get better, then I just don't see how that's not priority number one besides some other aspects of communication.
You cannot make it up. Like, for example, not a lot of people know this. I don't even know you know this, but I already got my last practice for my 14th this season. Like, not a lot of people know that I've been planned already, but it's a progression. It's a year plan. It's a linear plan. It's something that you have to take it, you got to go in months, you got to go, and then the full season. So it's not easy. You cannot just make it up at the end.
Yeah. We'll have to do podcast number 2 sometime down the road with the linear plan and everything there, because that's a whole nother hour and a half of just talking about the plan itself.
The plan, yeah.
All right. Okay. More to elaborate on club chemistry. Just kind of talk about all the clubs in general, the good, the bad, not bad, but just like strengths and weaknesses from, I try to, at least in our Woodstock location, because through all our locations, I'm busy enough here, so I don't get out to our other locations as much, although I talk to the other directors and we always are on the back end, running everything so it's as seamless as possible. But obviously they have different faces and different names down there that will run kind of their flow. But I'm always trying to make sure that the parents, players, the coaches, all the admin, everyone feels like they're part of the club. They can come talk to me. They can talk to each other. We're all here to help each other. We tell the girls they got to work together to win. And, for all the girls out there, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to make a good team. And there's parents, coaches, and admin that help make this work for you. So just kind of talk about club chemistry in general.
And again, I have worked for a few clubs, the communication part, right now we haven't started the season, but right now I like that every time, before tryouts, during tryouts, coaches meeting, there's always, like you said earlier, there's always a plan. We are working towards something, this is next month, this is next week, this is this today. We're being in mini club, seeing the progression of how you guys teach, from one way to another. And I'll throw a little example out there. Like, we talk about the 5 steps when we go to serving, how you break that down, with tossing and then serving and that kind of stuff. So, in my life, I would like to say that from OTBA, OVA, OTBA to TK to starting here, I always, because OTVA is one of the top club in the country. I think they were number 3 this year. I always gonna value. I gonna look at every club that way, And we are not far. You guys are not far. Because I'm here now. We are not far from where they are. The only thing we need, and we joke about this all the time, and we pray about it all the time, is our own facility, where we can have, and be here more and spend more time together. But even with that, our communication aspect is amazing. Like when we came to tryouts, for me, it's such a relief, easier. Boom, tryouts, done. Oh, okay, good. So our communication, the uniforms, all that kind of stuff, we are close to that OTVA side. Then, that I think, I cannot speak about other clubs because I have never been there. I can tell you about my own experience, so we are close to that OTBA area.
Yeah, awesome. 30-second building update, since that's the one thing, all the paperwork's into the bank. I feel like we'll know something in the next week or 2, but we've been waiting on them, waiting on everyone else. But so we feel really good about it that we'll be able to put 4 courts here and HVAC it and all that stuff. But stay tuned. We should know something next few weeks. All right. Volleyball organization. Last thing on this, as far as different clubs, the professionalism side. What can we do better? What have you seen other clubs do, from uniforms to website to response time to communication to admin management to, as much as it's a sport and we love having the girls, there's a business side where people have to get paid and you have to buy things and get hotels and travel and, get practice time and pay coaches and all this stuff. So,
well, when I used to be at OT, we had the director. It was Cindy Yvonne. And then you have me, that I was in charge of the tournaments, registering the team in the tournaments, and our own tournaments. They used to have Roberto, that he was in charge of all the rosters. Granted, we were working like we are in 575. We have multiple locations. Roberto was in charge of all the rosters for all the locations. Then you used to have Annie. Annie was our accountant. She used to be in charge of all the accounting. You had Ashley. She was in charge of all the traveling. You had Tanya. Tanya was the assistant to the director. At one point, then she became the director, and she was in charge of talking to parents. And then you have our office manager that was in charge of all the communication with the parents, all the emails, all that kind of stuff. And then you had the front desk that, with the facility, used to deal with all stuff. Now, circle back 5 years later, I'm here. And if you think, we have multiple locations where we hired Denise, that she does all our back stuff for our tournaments, all that kind of stuff. You got me and Steven running the tournaments and that kind of stuff with Russell. You guys run the locations, but at the same time do the uniforms. So the structure is more, there's a better structure, like when I used to be at the other club, I used to be at TK, I used to do everything. I used to do rosters, tournaments, billing, every single aspect that you can think about. It was in one person. Was I perfect? No, I made a lot of mistakes. One of the mistakes I made, it was like, my first year, it was like, I didn't do a good job with the billing, and I didn't own up to it. But you think about it, in the business that we have, we got we used to have 5-course facility, 20 teams, 22 teams, I did every course, you're gonna make mistakes, so in aspect to organization, again, we are getting in the right track to where we need to be, and I think we're gonna get better because you and Jeff have the right idea and the right heart in mind. So we're gonna get better because we keep bringing the right people in. Like when you guys told me, hey, we hired Denise, so that's a great hire. We're bringing people in like Russell. There are people that like to work. Now he's doing all our shirts and all that kind of stuff. In the other location, we got people like Marco, man, the big stuff in Texas. Steven does a great job over there at Lake Point. And everywhere, even in Carrollton. Matt does a great job, and then, you got Batman and Robin here in Woodstock that we do our thing, so it's going great, and I think that we, like I said before, we are closer to that old TVA, aspect, we're getting to that point.
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to all our coaches real quick, but especially our Woodstock ones, because we work with them all the time. They are like incredible. They take it seriously for these girls. And I could not be happier with our coaching staff. I know that's probably cliche and everyone's going to say that and whatnot, but I mean, we have coaches that are mature and older and wiser and have tons of experience under them, and they are all in to help the girls, so which is how it should be. But it's not easy to find a coaching staff where you have lots of coaches that have played the game, have learned to love the game from the coaching side, and can be professional about showing up on time, being there, coaching them, etc.
And I will say this about our coaching. I want to say thank you to them because they received me as I was being here for years. There was no jealousy. There was no bad situations coming towards me. Everybody has been super nice, super awesome. Hey, what can we learn? It's funny because one day Taylor, hey boss, I said, don't call me boss. I'm just Danny. So like everybody here has treated me well. Welcome me very good, and I'm very grateful about that. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, awesome. And I better give a shout out to my wife. She helps on the admin side as well.
You
So
cannot forget
she
about
does
that,
a
man.
ton, and she does good. Sometimes it can be hard with like the whole, hey, just do it because I'm trying to run the stuff, and I'm not the boss, but sometimes I have to put the boss hat on. And all right, that's a different story. All right, Danny, last thing. Let's finish with this. You're coaching 14-1 National.
Yep.
Tell me about your team. What's going to happen this season? How, long-term, short-term goals, and then so Danny is coaching our 14-1 National team as our head coach, and then we'll get to 18s.
So, very talented team. You know, a lot of good material to work with. You know, we just picked up another player yesterday that is going to help in our defensive end. It's going to be exciting. You know, I already got Jeff over there, you know, talking about his team in Peachtree City and Steven about Lake Point. So we'll see, you know. But, you know, like I'm just excited because when I heard that they said the Peachtree City team and the Lake Point team is good, that's good because it's going to make our club better. You know, and I think our 14 and under team is going to surprise people over here in Woodstock.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited, Danny. Especially like you got good depth, but I think at 14s you might have the best tandem middles.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it reminds me when I had 15s with Ava and Ali. Like you're at 14s, so
those two middles are gonna be dangerous. That's the only thing I'm gonna say.
And you got plans of hopefully moving a middle to an outside.
And if that
we picked up another player to put in the middle.
Yeah. Little by little, you know, we got surprises. You know, surprises.
So, all right, let's get finish up with 18-1s. Let me give you a little recap about them. They were with me at 15s. They're now at 18s. We have almost all of them are committed except a couple, but they're still they're still getting some good looks. We have some D1 commits on there. They are arguably the best 18s team in Georgia, and we'll go. You know, you got to go prove that on the court, but they could be arguably one of the best teams in the country. And we're gonna go try to go find out what's what this year in Open and our goal for them is Danny and I are both co-head coaching our 18-1. Our goal for them is to go get our first Open bid at 18s for the club, and I think that'll kind of they got an open bid, a USA bid and a national bid at 15s and have gotten bids through there. But I think if they can get that open bid, that'll be the legacy they leave where, hey, we can come play here, we have the structure, and we can compete at any level we want to compete at with the program here.
Well, and with that team, you know, you got a lot of good players, you know, and the kids that came over, they came over to the team, like, even in the first practice, they meshed so well.
Yeah.
You know, and not just that, like, kids are excited. I remember that first training that you had that you mentioned that I was coaching with them. They all got excited because they're going to have me and you together. And one of my kids said it. She said, I was really, really looking forward to playing for you in the 18s, but like I heard about Corny, so I'm just now excited to see what both of you guys can do in the court. And not her, me too. I'm super excited. You know, like we already got plan, master, ready to go. And we're going to do big things. I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, Danny, it's kind of fun because when that team gets on the court, there's no like, hey, let's go work on this basic. From the first rep at October 23rd or whatever it is. Like, it's all in right away, like, or starting with high-level stuff and getting after it. So
it's going to be – that team is going to be fun to watch. You know, I think everybody's excited to see that team play. I'm excited to see them play with all – together, you know, and the kids get along. So that's the most important part.
Yeah. Danny, I'm putting this out there in the world to end it, but our goal is to go get an open bid here and then keep that momentum going every year, taking 18s and trying to make the best team in Georgia every year at 18s.
Every year. If you want to learn volleyball, you want to have fun before you go to college, 575 Woodstock. That's what it is.
All right. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Let's go, Danny.
That was good.